You've made it to Chiro Hustle. Sit back and learn from the greatest influencers in the profession on the world's #1 chiropractic podcast. Before we dive into this powerful episode, please remember to subscribe to our channels and give us a 5-star rating on iTunes to continue hustling. This episode is sponsored by Imaging Services, Chiro Health USA, Chiro Moguls, Chiropractic Rocks, True Weight Solutions, The 100-Year Lifestyle, Pure Chiro Notes, Titronics, Passive Practice Profits, BrainTap Technology, Sherman College of Chiropractic, SCED, Chiro Pro Accounting, A-Line, and Midwest Brain Health Technology. Let's hustle.
Hey guys, welcome to episode 275 of the Chiro Hustle podcast. I am your co-host, Luke Millette, and here's your host, Jim Chester.
So today we had the opportunity of interviewing Dr. Taylor Stoecklin, and if you want to know more about the tone of life, stay tuned. All right, welcome to another episode of the Chiro Hustle podcast. We have Taylor Stoecklin coming in from the other side of the state. You're in Boulder, Colorado, and Luke and I are coming in from beautiful Grand Junction. And you asked Luke earlier, how is it going out in Grand Junction? Luke said,
it's hot.
That it is. I'm sure.
And
it's hot.
I know it's been warm in the Front Range too.
Has, yeah, it's definitely summer. We went straight to it. Oh well, that's Colorado for you.
Yeah, we get 2 seasons, right?
That's hot and hotter.
Cold and construction.
That's basically it.
That's my dad joke for the day.
Nice.
So Dr. Taylor, 5 years out of school, we met you back when you were at Logan College of Chiropractic. Mm-hmm. And it's been really cool to keep up with you over the past 5 years and see that where you're at today. But I didn't know a lot of this stuff that I read in your bio today about how you got into chiropractic. So if you could just share your chiropractic story with our audience and what got you into the chiropractic profession, let's just open some doors for people.
Yeah, happy to. Appreciate you guys having me on. It's fun to reconnect and, circle back and continue to move forward, build more awesome relationships. And so, yeah, psyched to be here and share my story. Hopefully it inspires somebody out there to, pursue their own greatness in some capacity. So it's my intention for the day. But yeah, my story, it starts, I'll try to do the brief version, but, growing up, kind of a typical American life, my parents are both pharmacists. So I grew up in that world. We were sick, we took an antibiotic, we took whatever. And then fast forward in life a little bit, I started to get really bad allergies, and to the point where, over-the-counter meds no longer was working. I had to get shots and formulations of shots over the course of several years up through high school, which, kind of helped curb the symptoms a little bit. And then at the same time, starting around that high school era, I started to get really bad migraines, and it was the point, where it just knocked me out. I couldn't do anything. And parallel timeline with that, I knew that I was going to be in a serving profession. I knew I was going to be somehow affiliated with the healthcare world. I just didn't know how. And, I had zero clue what chiropractic was, but I just knew it was somewhere in that field. And it was one thing that just kept popping up in my sphere. And, I was originally in line to go, maybe surgeon, anesthesiologist, something like that. And, took the MCAT, got my scores back, and just had to sit with myself and be like, is this where my heart is leading me? And my answer was no. And so I was like, okay, well, now I need to pivot and figure out what I'm going to do. And so, I call it divine intervention and guidance, and it's just led me into chiropractic. And, fast forward a little bit, still dealing with allergies. They started to come back in college, still dealing with the migraines, all through college. And I met a mutual friend, doc, mentor of mine, Dr. Eddie Weller in St. Louis. So shout out to you, doc, who moved a bone in my neck, and just like the lights turned on for like the first time, like ever, and the cool part is like migraines basically went away right away. Over time, the allergies got less and less and less, and basically don't have them anymore. And the other really cool part about that too is, I had been kind of just dealing in I call it like a fog, where like emotions just felt foggy, numb, like there was a glass between me and the world, and I just couldn't feel engaged. And that just shifted. That first adjustment, I'll never forget it. Just sitting with my good friend Nick outside grilling out, and I was like, oh my God, the grass is greener. I can smell things, like sounds are just, the colors are popping off. Like, what is going on? Like, this is how I'm supposed to feel. And so from there, just didn't look back, and like completely shifted my trajectory and what I was going to do, and have zero regrets. So it's a little bit about my story.
Really, really powerful, man. And, I think Luke has a similar story about having migraines.
Yeah. Yeah. It's super common. So many people deal with that, and they just think there's nothing out there. And it's like, is it a cure for migraines? No, but it's like, just like chiropractic is not the cure for anything. It's like you get your body working the right way, eliminate those interferences, and then lo and behold, things can shift in massive, massive ways.
And then, that happens to people. And then I love the next response is, do I have to go for the rest of my life?
Yeah. Yeah. That just kind of alludes to that paradigm shift that is happening now. I truly believe that, but it's the separation of these two ways of thought. And it's, is there something wrong with me that I have to continually fix, versus like, am I actually here to support something in its natural capacity just to be? And I think that's the biggest thing for us to help, kind of really reach that tipping point that we're all shooting for, is just to help people connect to that school of thought. Just like, you don't have to do anything. It's your choice. You don't have to use chiropractic at all. A lot of people don't. They live their life and they go on and they, do their things, take their meds, have kids, do the things. And it's just, you can choose a different way. You can choose a way that doesn't have to involve as much suffering or as much chemical alteration or as much, insurance, but just a different path of life. And I think that's a really cool, empowering thing for people to say like, hey, your body is actually amazing. It is able to do all these wonderful things if we can just get those roadblocks out of the way. And so
here's the thing, Dr. Taylor, is here's the health insurance. Take the stairs and eat the vegetables.
Yeah, right. Yeah, we have to make it so complex. And that's something I've really been having come up in my theme of my life over the course, year or so. It's just like, it can be easy, man. It doesn't mean you're not going to effort. It doesn't mean you put energy towards something. You do, but it doesn't have to feel like an uphill battle all the time. Like, it can be easy. The principles of health are easy. It's like, what do you do for a plant? Like you water it, you make sure there's nutrients in the soil, you give it sunlight and fresh air. Like, if we can start there, man, we can actually have a lot of things going our way.
Keep it simple.
Yeah.
So you've been out of school since we met you for about 5 years, and you're serving your community. How do you communicate chiropractic to your community with families and kids and maybe even people with special needs?
Yeah. So I found the best way, well, let me rewind. When you come out of school, like, you're just nonstop, just word vomit onto people. Like, oh my God, let me tell you all this thing. Let me tell you about innate intelligence. Let me tell you about your nervous system and all this stuff in your brain. It does all this stuff. Like, power that made the body heals the body. Blah! And people are like, what is going on with this dude? And so it's become more subtle. It's become just more flowy. And it's different in the person and the interaction. I feel like you can kind of pick up on someone's natural paradigm, someone's, energy, what they resonate with, how to present something. And I found that most of the time, analogies, metaphors are huge. People like a story, they resonate with a story. So a lot of times I'll just share a little bit about a story with somebody, even if it's just a little quick thing. Like, hey, have you ever thought about like why you actually get this thing happen to you? Have you ever wondered, like, do you think migraines are normal? Or opening up with a question, just getting them to think like, oh, like, I've actually never considered that. And then it's just as simple, like I was sharing with the plant, like, hey, our body's actually made to take care of itself. And there's this thing called subluxation. And whenever that is present, it interrupts the ability of your body to be able to communicate and to perform and function like it's designed to. And so it ends up breaking down. And so what we can do is actually analyze your spine structurally for the integrity of the spine and neurologically for any neurologic kind of compromise, because your brain ultimately is what's in control. And it's what's telling everything else what to do. And so if we can actually find that compromise and restore it back to its normal position and function, then your body's going to stop that breaking down state and start to build itself back well again. And given time, if the body can grow into a problem or condition, why can't it grow out of one? And just open it up to a question and let them think and decide and no one's ever said that to me before. No one's ever asked me that. And I hear stuff like that all the time. Wow, yeah, I've never thought about my health like this, or I've never thought about my body like this. And so that's kind of a few different ways I kind of approach it. But specifically to the kids with, especially any sort of autism, sensory processing, something like that. It's just a super simple, quick little story. I call it the green grass analogy. And I heard it from Dr. Joe Arve. And you guys probably know him, another Colorado doc.
Super simple. A mile high.
Yeah, basically.
9 years of Joe Arve.
Yeah, throw it out there. Give praise where praise is due. Yeah, that one works great. And what's awesome is by sharing and chatting with the kids, parents are in the room too, but they haven't heard that story either. And so I ask them questions hey, what color is healthy grass? And they say, green. Sometimes they need a little coaxing, but usually they get it. And then it's okay, what happens when the water's off? If there gets no water, it's going to turn brown, right? Yeah. Well, what about if we were to open up the hose and let the water start flowing again? What do you think would happen? Would it turn green? Yeah. Cool. You understand chiropractic. And then I relate it to the body. The body's the same way. The nerve signal, the flow of the nerve, it's life to the body. If we can let it start flowing again, the body can heal, just like the brown to green grass. Yay.
And the thing is, Dr. Taylor, is when people have a high level of knowledge and they have their frontal lobe is actually developed, they understand organ atrophy, and they understand pain, and they understand the way that the body goes into degenerative states and the way that disease happens. But kids and the younger group of people, they just need to understand that when things aren't flowing, things die. Yeah. And when things do flow, they come back to life.
Yeah, they don't necessarily are able to grasp, the actual mechanics and the how and what's going on and any sort of exactly fancy words that we end up throwing around disafferentation and stuff like that. But
publication.
Yeah, but they get the concept, right? They get the concept that life is what heals. And if you interfere with the ability of life to happen in its natural state, there's going to be consequences.
Amen.
So, yeah.
So what are some things you're doing to evolve yourself personally and professionally?
Love that. So personally, it's been this this past year has been a lot for everybody, right? But as we were talking before on here, that sort of divine timing, and the time is always divine. It's just when we're able to actually attune to that timing, and it'll come into our world. And there was a lot this past year of just kind of working on, some people call it shadow work, just clearing out my drama, my stories that were limiting and keeping me from actually being able to receive all of this awesomeness that is, in our life, whether it's through our business or through our relationships or through whatever. And so by doing one, I've been doing the other, really, because ultimately, as a chiropractor, you're in your office most of the time. It's either your office or somebody else's. And as much as we want it not to be a personality-based type of business, there's definitely that component to it. And so the more you can kind of just get clear and know who you are, know what you're doing, know who you're serving, then you start to attract it. And it starts to just show up. And, instead of me having to go out and do 50 events, some people are just starting to gravitate towards me. That's the way I like to think about it, is gravity. You're building up yourself inside, and it's just creating this force field that's just like a tractor beam, and things just start coming into your life. So I've been doing a lot of that. I've been doing a lot of that kind of soul searching, deep work, just clearing out some of the stories that, way back from childhood, even, that can kind of do that. Other things too, just like mind, body, spirit, kind of working all of it. I'm tuning in to where do I want to take my practice? Where do I want to be in the upcoming years, and, feeling into what that actually feels like. And then the do and the how starts to just come through. So that's a little bit about what I've been doing, I suppose.
Well, before we go on to the next thing, I just want to say something that I think will connect all this together. A while ago, I posed a question was, would your shadow be proud of you? Ooh. And when you're talking about doing this shadow work, and I think that that's a big question for people to consider when they are the shadow. Is your shadow stoked that you showed up the way you did today? Is your shadow proud of the activities that you carry it through on a day-to-day basis and in the past? And I think that when you talk about this idea of reparenting as a little guy and understanding what you're doing today with those same type of tendencies, the shadow's been with you the whole time.
Right. Yeah. It's a part of us. And on the kind of jumping off of that too, it's like, can you love and accept your shadow and everything you've been all the way through? Or are you still punishing yourself, and is it still showing up in your life now?
Amen.
Yeah. Yeah. That stuff's been huge. Like, not just for my business, but for my life, for my relationships, for like my wife, my family, connecting with friends. Like, it just, you never know how far reaching. That's all I can.
So you mentioned doing community events. What are some of your other favorite ways to stay connected and in the presence of your community?
I like to just kind of, as much as I can, just keep it organic, and just, I am my ideal client, like me, a younger person, fit, health oriented, starting in that zone of starting a family-ish. Not that I'm doing that just this moment, but
we're excited for you.
Yeah, right? I appreciate it. Just to be active, so it's like, well, what do I love to do? I'm going to go do those things, and then naturally just start meeting and communicating and building relationships as I go, and trying to keep it as flowy as possible. So, I love rock climbing, and so I'd go to the gym and I would, chat people up there. Just different. There's everything that's kind of typical, some meetup groups here and there. Just kind of being out and about, just chatting people up in line at, a restaurant or something while we're waiting to get in, or friends of friends, all that kind of stuff. Going to fairs and things like that. I definitely enjoy doing that, or farmers markets, just the things that are happening in your community. There's so many things already that you can plug yourself into. I was a part of a networking group for more on the business side of things for a long time. So just getting plugged in, and I would say caveat that with, do the things that are going to plug you into your community that makes you feel like you have more energy, like perks you up a little bit, doesn't feel draining. Because one thing I've been thinking about a lot lately is, we all understand, and I've probably heard the concept that things you do compound over time. And more of this kind of recent kind of things going in my world is who you are when you do those things also compounds over time and builds into what you're doing so much more. It's like going hyperspeed. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I'd say just doing things you enjoy is the best way to get plugged in.
You've made it to Chiro Hustle. Sit back and learn from the greatest influencers in the profession on the world's #1 chiropractic podcast. This episode is sponsored by Imaging Services, Chiro Health USA, Chiro Moguls, Chiropractic Rocks, True Weight Solutions, The 100-Year Lifestyle, Pure Chiro Notes, Titronics, Passive Practice Profits, BrainTap Technology, Sherman College of Chiropractic, SCED, Chiro Pro Accounting, A-Line, and Midwest Brain Health Technology. Let's hustle. I want to touch on a couple things you said there. Is number one, be nice to people. Number 2, share your charisma and enthusiasm with others. Number 3, that I would share with people is to be social on social and plug into communities and find out who is at the leadership of certain groups and plug into them and comment, like, and share on their stuff. And before you know it, they're going to wonder who you are. And then you get invited to do stuff like, I'm sure, giving a health talk to people is something that's right up your wheelhouse, connecting with that group. It's also that synergy of the one-to-one, but then you get the synergy of the one-to-many.
Yeah.
And earlier on when you were speaking, I was thinking to myself, we need to get you on more shows. We need to get you on more stages, and we need to get you to be able to connect with this younger generation of people that would, respond to your messaging. And I think that a lot of times when people think of doctors, they think of these people that loaf around in white coats and are pill pushers. But when I think of doctors, I think of you. And the avatar of people that need you, they're out there.
Absolutely.
And that's how I see you taking this micro and go into the major, which is the bigger group of people that need somebody with your energy and charisma to transcend it. And a lot of people just don't know where to go or who to trust.
That is a thing.
When you show up the right way, that's valuable.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it just builds that strength and that influence, and it's something that grows over time. And like you mentioned, you have to have that reciprocity. You go into it without your ulterior motive or your small-minded thinking or your lack-minded thinking, like, oh, I need to get, these new people or connections out of this. It's like, no, who do I need to be? Like, if I already had all that stuff, like, how would I act? How would I actually go about my day? What am I going to be doing? Like, I'm going to love on this person because I want them to be successful, because I know that the more they're successful, it's actually going to come around to me too.
Amen.
But, that's how it works.
So where do you see chiropractic going in the next 20 years?
That's an interesting question. I often think about BJ Palmer and the Great Divide and the things that he's talked about. And we are living in a very polarizing time, we'll say. And that's evident across the boards, politically, all sorts of different avenues. But I do think that there is a strong faction of really principled chiropractors who are tapping into this universal intelligence. We'll use it. We'll use the word, Chiro word there, of what's building and going on in the organizing principle of the universe, right? That's what it is. And it's more and more, I would say the time is now right, getting back to our divine timing here, for chiropractic to step up as that real, primary source of healthcare that people have. And so I think that is going to become out into fruition in a big, big way. I also think there's going to be a split along the way, that there's going to be a faction that just goes off and gets absorbed in some way or capacity, which is fine. I hold no resentment against those people who want to practice that way. But ultimately, I think chiropractic is going to take what I feel is sort of its rightful place as sort of that main pathway to help people experience a natural way of life and health.
So who have been some of your heroes as you've been on this journey of life? And they don't have to be chiropractic based. They could be anybody, athletes, actors.
Yeah, man. I mean, you get inspiration from all sorts of places, I would say the greater themes and people in my world, I'd say Jordan Peterson was a big one. I've been following him for several years now. Huge in that personal responsibility and just taking ownership of what you're up to and presenting yourself and being the person you need to be in order to, be the best for you, for your community, for others, for the world, and keeping that macro lens while also knowing, like, you start here. Clean your room is his kind of thing, which is sort of that metaphorical, get your own stuff together before you, try to control anybody else. Yeah, I would love to hang out with him, pick his brain for a while. In the chiropractic world, Donnie is always someone who's fun to listen to. I'm sure you guys know him as well, being connected with Mile High. And I've been following Brett Jones too for a while, another chiro. I like what he has to say a lot as well. He's definitely got his stuff together and is in that camp I was describing earlier of those really inspired docs who are like ready to make moves and are making them. I'd say those are some of the main ones in my life. Obviously, like even to this day, still my dad, as corny, as cliche as that might be, but yeah, he's somebody that if you think of the word authentic, that man is authentic. I love him to death. So that's a few of mine. Yeah.
Well, if you could pick any one person from history to have lunch with, who would it be?
Probably actually the person who comes to mind is Ralph Waldo Emerson. Like I very much have always resonated with his line of thinking, self-determination, self-enlightenment. It's a similar theme. Everybody else I was kind of mentioning says something relatively the same, but in their own way, connecting with nature, all that kind of stuff. I'd love to, sit around and hang out with him for a little bit. That'd be fun.
Yeah. When that happens, let me know. I'll join you.
We'll just have to connect into the ether somehow and maybe we'll pick up.
So in the 5 years you've been practicing so far, have you acquired any amazing miracle stories?
Yes. I mean, they're all miraculous in their own way, I suppose. Even if they don't get the outcomes that we're looking for, it's still a miracle in some sense. It's going to teach us a lesson, help us improve or something like that. But just a couple that come to mind relatively recently. There was a woman who came in with trigeminal neuralgia. So a super intense pain basically coming across the face and neck where the trigeminal nerve is basically supplying, known as one of the worst pains, if not the worst pain in the entire world, even more than childbirth. And was on a bunch of meds, doctors were just like, try these ones, try that. And she's like, I don't want to do that anymore. And she comes in and I adjust her once and she comes in the next day and it's like 80% gone. Comes in the following visit and it's totally gone. And saw her just the other day. She's like, I have totally quit all the meds. I haven't taken anything for weeks and I have no pain and I am just like ecstatic. So like, that's a super cool one. Always loving, cause like that's debilitating. Like you can't even think, like you have so much intensity of pain, just like all the time. It's like, how's that person able to live and function? Like what's their quality of life like? And just to help in some capacity to be able to restore that's the magic. Another one real quick, a little boy on the spectrum of sorts, sensory processing, diagnosed, ADHD diagnosed, having like constipation issues since like birth. I saw him, how old was he? He was maybe like 7 or 8, getting in trouble in school a lot, kids didn't like him. He didn't really have any friends. He was disrupting class, all this kind of stuff. And actually the very first visit, I kind of hated this kid, to be honest. Like he tried to spit at me. I never had that happen before. And I was like, oh, this kid. But fast forward, he became one of the like best clients I had. I looked forward to seeing him every visit. We chilled, we sang Modest Yahoo together in the office. It was great. And he got a girlfriend, started getting friends in school, like behavior issues gone, constipation issues gone, and just like turned his whole trajectory of his life around, that's a couple. So, I mean, they're everywhere,
Well, I just wanted to let you know that I'd probably be a super big jerk too if I couldn't go to the bathroom.
yeah, totally. And that's the thing too. That's the thing I like remind these parents. It's like, this kid, like, what would you feel like? What's your, RPM meter going to be like if you haven't been able to go to the bathroom for a while? Or basically if your brain feels like it's hungover all the time, like, what are you going to feel like?
Yeah. And, one of those things that I could just take this back to chiropractic is it's not always about pain. It's about tone and it's about frequency and it's about adaptability.
Yeah.
And if somebody's low tone because they have a blockage of their nervous system, they aren't able to thrive, and their activities of daily living suffer, and their behavior starts to become the outcome of the suffering. And the people around them are the direct effect of who's closest to them that they hurt the most through their behavior, because they basically have a fire going on and no one can help put it out. And then they come in and see you, and you chill out the parasympathetics with the adjustment, and you chill out the sympathetic nervous system with the adjustment. The body starts to chill out a lot. The fire goes out, and all of a sudden he gets a girlfriend. Pretty cool story.
Yeah. And you can now start to become calm and connected and present in your world and actually, live and function as a human, more so than you could otherwise. So yeah, those stories are always great. And just on the day to day, just seeing people's eyes start to have more life in them is one of the coolest things ever, and always will be.
Once again, tone and adaptability.
Yeah.
You change the tone of the nervous system, changes the tone of their vision, changes their adaptability to thrive and to see. It's amazing. When you start seeing the grass green and hear the birds chirp clearer and hear the life going on around you with much more vibrancy. After the migraines got sorted out, life comes back.
Yeah.
And I think that that's something that people should all consider when they listen to this episode is, how can your life come back to you with chiropractic? And what are you missing by saying, do I have to go the rest of my life? Actually, you get to go the rest of your life. So supporting the beautiful profession of chiropractic is something that we should all consider doing a little bit more, and really uplifting not only the messenger, but the people that need the stories, which is what Chiro Hustle is all about, protecting free speech in the chiropractic profession. And telling the story, and over time, what I've heard, Dr. Taylor, is from the legends from the podium would always say, tell the story, tell the story, tell the story. And that's what Luke and I have been doing since we met you, is we've been telling the darn story.
Yeah, I love it. And I respect it. And you guys are making massive impact. And it's just really starting to get in that vortex and just explode. And I love it because the world needs it for sure.
So at this juncture, is there anything we didn't ask you that you'd like to share with our audience today?
Man, I feel like we covered some good stuff, to be honest. But I would say just getting back to just be the person and figuring out who that person is and loving every step of your journey, not having to make a story about it, but know that there is an organizing principle to the universe and it is working in your favor. And if you can sit and just listen and look and see and feel into what that is doing in your life and how it's gotten you to where you are now, then also recognize you are a part of that organizing principle. We are part and parcel of that. And you can create the things you want. And it just happens at hyperspeed whenever you can tune in to what that is. So I guess that's going to be my woo-woo way to end this episode.
Well, before we close out, what are some website links people can visit if they want to find out more about you?
I would love to connect if anybody wants to, got inspired from this episode. I'd say I'm most active on Instagram. You can find me at Dr. Taylor Stoecklin on Instagram. My website for my practice is groundedchiro.com. Facebook, reach out to me anyway. Those are all great.
Well, Dr. Taylor, thank you for being our guest today on the Chiro Hustle podcast. This is episode 275. You made it real. You made it fun. And go forth and serve, brother.
I love it. Appreciate you guys. Looking forward to seeing you again soon.
All right. Talk soon. Thanks for listening to Chiro Hustle. Don't forget to subscribe and check back next week to continue hustling.